get ready to card slash Tamers. We're here with a new Digimon TCG deck profile, updated for the September 1st ban list. I mean, restricted list, I guess they didn't ban any cards. Whatever. It's Black X-Antibody, a deck that got hit, and I'm going to show you how I plan to play it. Now, the cool thing about this is I really didn't have to change my deck much. The strategy more or less stays the same. I just had to change ratios because, yeah, Dorugreymon was a little bit too much. Giving random crits in a deck that is already strong enough as it is, it was definitely the right choice to hit it, even with a little bit of collateral being set towards the Dorugamon style of playing. I actually was thinking for a while, I was like, they really got to hit X-Ante. I don't know what they would hit though. I was thinking, Ouryumon's not powerful enough. Hitting one of the Alphamons just means you'll play the other one. So hit Dorimon? That didn't really make a lot of sense to hit Dorimon. But Dorugreymon, I didn't think about, and it was definitely the right choice. It takes away the right kind of power from the deck, the kind of power the deck really doesn't need on top of everything else it does, as well as like added protections and stuff. I mean, as usual, Digimon TCG making some big brain moves out here. Anyway, this deck still competes just as well, just doesn't have an unfair amount of extra power out of nowhere. Kind of, it still kind of does. So this build, I call it like a preemptive recovery build, where what we're doing is we're building up, or getting close to building up, and then getting resources so that we can build up again. The whole point is, you put up a threat via Alphamon, they deal with it, probably, and then you can build up another Alphamon right afterwards. This strategy has worked out pretty good so far. A lot of people comment on my deck saying that I keep putting up more and more Alphamons, and yeah, that is what I'm doing. That's the point. I'm sort of looking at something that isn't inherently expected of a deck, but that benefits the deck and making it happen the best I can. So without further ado, let's get into it. For level 7s, we are running 2 Alphamon Ouryuken. So this card, more often than not, ends up just being a little thing that you do once in a while. It's not really a core of the deck, like with any level 7. I ended up saying I don't want to play more than 2 copies. I am at least playing 2 copies of it. Usually I play 0 to 1 copies of level 7s in decks, but this one has so much more synergy with the deck, and the whole thing where it can put sources from underneath it back so that you can continue your turn very much makes this a solid card. It's essentially an Iron Fisted Onslaught for Alphamon deck in a level 7 form. And yeah, that's really all you can say about it. Fairly decent little card. Moving on to the level 6s. So I was really unsure of what ratios to play between the 2 Alphamons, but then I kind of figured something out. So we're doing 3 BT6 Alphamons, 1 beautiful alt art, because that's all I have, but the other art also very beautiful. Really, you couldn't tell which one's the alt art. I'm just looking at them side by side. By quantity, yes, I only have 4 of this and 1 of this, but by artwork alone, as is with this game, they are both so beautiful. But we are playing that alongside 3 BT9 Alphamon. So as I said, with preemptive recovery, you'll see that we'll be doing quite a lot of drawing and deck searching. Just having the pick of what Alphamon you want is really what this deck ended up needing, I found. So I just played 3 and 3. 4 and 4 was way too clunky, but 3 and 3 means that you get pretty good checks off your Grademon. Hint, we're playing Grademon because we got lots of Alphamon names to add. And we got lots of resources to go through the Alphamons that we want, see the Alphamons that we want, and based on the situation we're in, pick the Alphamon that we need. And of course, this one's still going to give you pretty decent protection through the security. So this Alphamon here, he's kind of like the go-to Alphamon because he just gives you more memory. Where I said preemptive recovery, getting that memory is what that's going to be. It's going to help you set up, even though you're already at a level 6. So that's really giving you a chance to put up stuff for after they deal with this Alphamon, if they do. The ability to raise his DP means that you can tailor how you're using him against what you're facing, either attack their Digimon of huge power, or go for security checks, maybe twice with Ouryumon. If you're real lucky, put a Dorugreymon under there and do too much damage. Now this Alphamon, he's kind of nuts. So consistently putting things in the trash doesn't always happen with this deck. But if you are recovering a theme of this deck, then you'll have some pretty good options to choose from with this On-Digivolution effect. Now, the big thing is the De-Digivolve, because a lot of times your opponent's got some like thing that you can't really deal with for one reason or another. De-Digivolve is a pretty crazy way to deal with it, and the fact that this guy can just set up like Ouryumon underneath him and all that, Honestly, he is the toolbox Alphamon. This is the go-to beatdown Alphamon. You can take your pick. It is very nice. Now, we're not done with level 6s because, of course, we got 2 Ouryumon. I don't really consider him a level 6 because I don't really want to evolve into him. Like I said in my last X-Antibody deck profile, this guy is a brick, but that you kind of want to see. So, at first I thought I was going to play 4 of them when BT9 stuff came out because it's like, wow, it's so powerful. The attack twice, they possibly get it more than once if you stack a bunch of them. Well, what I found out was that Alphamon kind of just gets by on his own without it, but it is nice to have. So you don't really need to base your deck around this card, but it's just a nice little boost to have once in a while. So don't fret over playing too many copies of this card. 2 suffices pretty good, especially with the amount of draw power that we have in BT9. So 2, Ouryumon. Going on to the level 5s, we of course have 4 Grademon. Really need to lean into this guy now that Dorugamon is limited, but he definitely picks up the slack. I would definitely say that in an Alphamon deck, he is stronger than Dorugreymon, of course. It's just that Dorugreymon gave you unexpected damage out of nowhere. I really think that's why it got hit, as well as the protection was okay. So let's just look at what we're dealing with here with Grademon. So the when Digivolving has a lot to it, and make sure that you're getting all the effects, because at first I wasn't really getting them all or doing them all right. So you reveal 3, add a card of Alphamon, then place an X-Antibody underneath. So if you reveal like this, you get to add this to your hand, put this under Grademon, and then trash this. Like, the amount of setup that you can get off this little guy here, and the amount of effects you can trigger with your Dorumon or Dorimon is insane. Now, the other effect, end of attack, if this Digimon has Alphamon in his name, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 5 or less, is super big, especially if you want to make sure they have some Digimon with play cost 5 or less by de-Digivolving. Keep in mind it's end of attack, so if you like die in security check or whatever, you don't get this effect. Keep that in mind. Now this effect is not once per turn, so Ouryumon really lets you go down with this. If you were getting rushed, these guys are your best friends, because you de-Digivolve whatever their like mid to higher tier rush Digimon is, you attack, potentially get an Ouryumon effect as well, so you can do it again, pop all their guys. This is a defensive play, as well as it is a way to close out games by getting rid of their field. Now we still have, of course, the one, Dorugreymon. So the when Digivolving effect itself is insanely powerful, but the fact that it just gives you a crit for having X-Antibody is what made it go over the line, especially with things like Yuji. We can just start stacking these things, or Ouryumon attack twice with it. Still worth to play. I think more often than not, you're going to evolve into this if you have to, or if you draw into it, it's going to be one of the key things you put under your guy to do insane amounts of free damage. So only 5 level 5s and 6 level 6s, plus the 2 Ouryumons, isn't really going to cut it, so we're bringing back my boy, a Digimon that I love. It's WaruMonzaemon. So WaruMonzaemon offers a lot to this deck despite not having any text here or here. Keep in mind that in this game, vanillas are super useful, unlike something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Vanguard where they're inherently kind of bad, except for possibly having higher stats. So 2-cost evolution, that is really welcome in a deck where we're just trying to build up to a big beefy Alphamon. 5-cost hard play, going to be super welcome in a deck where my ratios are kind of tight on Digimon, and maybe I want to just hard play this so I can evolve my many level 6s onto it. I have a lot of level 6s, so having the hard play level 5 is really useful. WaruMonzaemon, welcome to the team. Glad to have you here. Such a baller. Like I said, I just love the design of this Digimon too. Alright, moving on to the level 4s, of course, we have 4 Dorugamon. Fun fact, this guy was one of my all-time favorite Digimon ever since I was like in the 5th grade or some shit. Saw him in Digimon World Dawn and I thought he was just really cool. So having the blocker is kind of neat. Honestly, it's most useful early game to dissuade rush and such, but the ult turns plus 1000. I mean, like, the first wave of X-Antibody was clearly designed around like one wave of X-Antibody. By the time we got the other cards, it just made them that much more valuable. So I mean, we're talking making Alphamon maybe big enough that they can't attack over him, big enough that he can attack over them. It's all about more options for you, less options for them. Especially giving 1000 power to your level 5, it protects you during a key time of you trying to build up a stack of Digimon cards. against some decks, you know, suspending it and attacking it or bouncing it or nuking it based on DP is relevant. So 1k, very welcome. Next we got 4 Raptordramon. So exact same inherited effect as Grademon, and for that reason it kind of devalues both of them individually, but having it at least once is nice. I mean, we're just talking X-Antibody, level 4, decent enough evolution cost, gives an inherited effect, that's why he's there. Now keep in mind, I'm only running 11 level 4s total, so my level 4 count actually is really relevant. So usually when I'm discarding the draw off of the Dorumon who does that, I'm not discarding my level 4s, they're more the things I hold on to. The way that this deck plays is definitely heavily based around the way the deck is built. Some resources are more scarce than others, like level 4s versus level 6s or even level 5s. So you gotta work around what you're playing, not just what your opponent's playing, adapt to what you're playing too. We got 2 DexDorugamon. So of all the deck stuff, the cool boys, it's all very flashy and fun when it goes off, but I think it's janky, less consistent. You spend more time building stuff up that just lets you build up again instead of just building up in the first place and then going preemptive recovery, as this deck is themed around. So the Evo off Dorugamon for 0 basically just turns this into an upstart goblin. Trashing in your hand gives it like a sort of hammer spark effect, as well as allowing you to set up your grave. So that means the 3-cost Evo means it can become a 2-cost Evo if you just trash something in hand, which is kind of something you want with the BT9 Alphamon. So this card, honestly, you could bump him up to like 3 or 4 if you had the room for it. But for now, we're just going 2, and it's been working out just fine. And there's a fun little strategy of this card that I'll show you in just a bit. The last level 4 we're playing is 1 copy of Grumblemon. We have a Black Tamer, which never suspends on its own, that is Kota, so swing in for the extra attack, why don't you? The old standby tech of the hybrid for game. Level 3s, of course, we got 4 copies of my man Dorumon. I got 1 alt art. Pretty fucking crazy art. You can see both Dorugreymons and Alphamon in the background very faintly. So having all your rookies have on-play effects is kind of neat, but I'm only playing 12, so you don't see it that often. This inherited effect, man, this inherited effect, it lets you set up like you're a green deck because of all the stuff that you're putting underneath. And wait till you see the little tech we got that really gets us going. This inherited effect, keep it in mind. Next up, we got 4 Ryudamon. Not really for any particular reason. Decoy Black doesn't come up enough, but when it does, it's insane. The on-play search, very welcome. That's all you can really say about Ryudamon, not much. A good filler card. Lastly, we got 4 copies of the BT9 Dorumon. This card is really, really good. No inherited, but that's okay, because early in the game we are playing him, ditching a level 6 out of her hand and drawing 2, hoping that we can get the cards we need to set up properly. So before I go into options or tamers, I'm just going to show that I got 4 level 2s. My eggs are all Dorimon, and that's very relevant. We don't want to see anything else. This Dorimon, you know, drawing a card off, putting sources underneath was good before. Now it is crucial. And while we go into our option cards, we're just gonna put a few cards over here like so. So just keep in mind that we're looking for a stack kind of like this often. Because for options, we are playing for X-Antibody. Now, why would you need to put the X-Antibody under somebody who already has it? Well, in this game, I'll show you why. Because when you get Gigavaxed, you start going nuts on the pluses. So X-Antibody, we can just put it under one of our guys for 0. That will draw us a card and gain us a memory. That is a draw 1 with a Hammer Spark effect. And the inherited lets us attack and evolve when we're attacking, which helps us set up even more. Like I said before, it's kind of like a green deck with how much you will be evolving in one turn, without using all the 1 and 2 cost evolutions and such, or effects like Digisorption. So a lot of times I'll have a stack like this, and I'll just have to go boom, attack, evolve to Alphamon, and then at the end of the attack I can get 2 memory, and now maybe I'm at like 1 memory or something, or 0 memory. I wouldn't have been able to do that without X-Antibody. X-Antibody takes what is kind of a control deck and makes it into a way more aggro deck, gives it a lot more options. Kind of one reason why Dorugreymon was kind of crazy in this deck. What you really need to know about X-Antibody is not only that we're using it mainly as in the early game as a way to draw a card and gain a memory for that key, crucial setup when we are weakest, when we don't have all our resources. Also to let us attack and evolve, because we don't have a lot of memory gained in this deck, so we're really making use of what we have per turn. But lastly, for my tech, I am playing 2 Metal Cannon, the most dangerous card you can play in X-Antibody, because when you play this card, you become extremely close to decking out every single game. So preemptive recovery means we have a stack, we play a card that makes it so we can make another stack when that one's destroyed. Also, early game, 3 draws is not bad. Like, we've already drawn a card and gained a memory with X-Antibody by putting it under our stack. Let's just draw 3 more. I don't know if 4 is the number, because you don't always need this. It's kind of a hard choice, because you want to see it early game, kind of, but you don't always want to see it later game, and you don't always need it either, nor do you have the momentum to be paying 2 memory just to draw more cards. But 2 has worked out very good, especially with X-Antibody and all the cards we have now. Heck, even Grademon, when he evolves, of course he's going to put an X-Antibody underneath you from the top of your deck. So that's going to make your stack into Metal Cannon draw you a solid 5 cards. Yeah. That's going to help with the early mid-game where this deck struggles a little bit. So now that you've seen how we manage resources in terms of memory and drawing, the last things we got are our Tamers, of course, 2 Kota. Can't go wrong with a memory fixer that has an on-play search top 4 for X-Antibody effect, the Grumblemon combo, and yada yada yada. We have 2 Yujis, and that's actually it for our entire deck. We're only playing 4 Tamers, not a lot of memory, but it's giving us early draws and early memory, and the early stuff is what matters most. Late game, it has the ability to put things underneath from our hand that makes your Alphamon stack really threatening. So honestly, Yuji does pretty good work even at only 2 copies. Like I said, no Cool Boy, because Cool Boy not only relies on you playing a lot of the Dex cards, which might be a bit bricky if you don't have the first card to put on them, especially if Dorugreymon limited, but Cool Boy also is just a way to set up, where I'm just going to set up and then use that setup to win. Well, if you like what you saw, sub for Spub, folks, because I do nothing but upload sick-ass videos, if I do say so myself. I am a big Digimon fan, big fan of Dorumon ever since I was a little kid, so I really want to make a cool deck that uses him as strong as possible. Even with the new limit, I think it's a very good place to put X-Antibody. It went from being easily the best deck in the game to probably being the best deck in the game, but still only by a little bit, which is kind of a good place to have your tier 1. Reachable by the other decks. It kind of felt like it wasn't for a bit. Or at least you had to work extremely hard to counter X-Antibody as it was.